Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and welcome to LifeSpa.com, where we prove ancient medical wisdom with modern science. And today, I was sort of struck. I was reading a study this morning, and it was a big study with about 55,000 people done in Sweden, and they had people measured for over 15 years, and they found that the people who ate the most whole grains actually had the most reduction in type 2 diabetes risk. Type 2 diabetes is something they're saying is now affecting half of the American population. The reduction in men was 34% for the group that had the most whole wheat in their diet, and 22% for women who had the most whole wheat in their diet. They also said that if they took the American amount of whole wheat that Americans actually eat, that they would be in the lowest percentage of the amount of whole wheat that's eaten in the Europeans in this Scandinavian study. So what does that mean? Like, is the wheat different here than different there? Well, sort of. Whole wheat is not whole wheat. I've written an article about this. It's coming out pretty soon on our newsletter that you might want to tune into. And I kind of looked at some of the ingredients in some of the healthiest whole wheat, organic whole wheat products that we have. And there's a lot more in there than you actually need to make bread, which is just wheat, salt, and water. That's all you really need, maybe a starter. Where they have added starches and molasses and brown sugar and added more gluten. Even though all the ingredients were organic, they still were not, they still were, in a way, highly processed. Here's something that's crazy. The FDA requires that whole wheat only has about 51% by weight as the actual whole grain kernel. So if you put a pound of whole grain wheat berries into the grinder and then you make whole wheat, it only has to weigh 51% of the actual weight of the original wheat berries that you had. So where did the other 49% of that wheat go? Did it just vanish? Is that important? Yes, absolutely, it's important. When we take whole wheat in America, we separate the endosperm, which is the starch, the germ, which is where all the really good oils are. They go rancid, so they oftentimes try to limit how much of that they put in. And then there's the bran, which is where the fibers, and there's also the chaff, which is usually not taken out as well. So what the studies are suggesting is that there's significantly less fiber, significantly less nutrients, significantly less of these of the actual really good oils that are in the wheat that are missing when you actually eat whole wheat. Because what they do is they take the wheat, they separate all those out, and they put it back together. When they put it back together, this is American whole wheat. It's 49% less weight than it was. Like, imagine you losing 50 pounds just by getting processed. That's what it is. Basically, half of your body weight is gone. And where did it go? This is an interesting thing. So this is why, it's really why I wrote the book, Eat Wheat, because it's I get it. You eat wheat, you feel bad. You eat grains, you feel bad. You eat lectins, you feel bad. People aren't digesting well. But the studies are sort of saying something is not right with the idea that wheats and grains and beans and things with anti-nutrients are bad for you. Studies show, and many of them, that our ancient ancestors actually did, in fact, ingest grains. To the tune of about 40% of our diet back then was starch, which was why we acquired a gene to make an enzyme to digest starch called amylase, which we still have today, which increases in our body every fall, which is when wheat and grains and all these harder to digest foods, starchy foods, are harvested. So that's happening right now as we speak, which is why we're talking about this. How do I eat wheat, eat grain, eat these things, which are sort of seasonal in nature? And you all know we write a monthly grocery list, recipe list, and superfood list for you guys for free. Anybody can get it, called the 3-Season Diet Challenge. And you're going to see more grain coming into the diet in the next couple of months. And you're all going to say, I can't eat that. Wheat's bad, and lectins are bad, and all these things are bad. I get it that you feel bad when you eat it. So there's a couple of ways to navigate that. Number one, okay, as we begin to introduce a little bit of grain back in our diet, and in this study where they saw 34% in men, 22% in women, less diabetes risk, It was a study that was done on all kinds of cereal grains. It wasn't just wheat. It was all kinds of cereal grains that they saw that reduction. So it's not just wheat we're talking about here. It's oatmeal and quinoa and all types of whole grains versus refined grains, which is an important understanding. So when you think about the big picture here, you want to look for actual, real whole grains. And if you get some of the Scandinavian crackers, the kavla, the crackers, you'll see that the grain is rye, water, salt, period. And it's the real deal. And you can put nut butter on that, and it's a great source of grain. Some of the breads that you can get, they're typically in the refrigerated section because they have the oils in them, and they will go bad if you put them on the counter. Organic whole wheat bread that's sitting on the shelf is squishy. Generally speaking, it won't go bad. The golden rule is if it doesn't go bad in a couple of days, which most things that are natural do, then you put it inside of your body. The bugs that would have made it go bad on the counter are not going to eat it on the counter or eat it inside of you. Where do all those highly processed foods go? And particularly the oils that they use to preserve them, they go to your liver and they congest your liver, which is the kingpin of digestive health, the kingpin of detoxification, the kingpin of bowel function elimination, not to mention the manufacturing side of so many things as well. So it's so important and so common that those oils that extend shelf life, not our life, have screwed up the works and congested our livers and gallbladders and created real problems. So eat non-processed food, eat non-refined foods, eat foods that are organic that haven't been sprayed, because when you spray them, they kill the microbes that help us digest these harder to digest foods, and that's all hard science now as well. When they did studies comparing people who actually ate wheat and people who were gluten-free, and these are massive Harvard, this study was 55,000 people, 2 Harvard studies, both of them over 200,000 people for 30 years, found that people who eat the most wheat have less diabetes risk, and also in another study, the second study, heart disease risk than people who are gluten-free. Studies show, and I've written a lot about this. One article you can zoom into and tune into right now is called "The Dangers of a Gluten-Free Diet." No one talks about that. People who are gluten-free had 4 times the amount of mercury in their blood than people who ate wheat. They had significantly less good bugs and more bad bugs in their gut than people who ate wheat. People who actually were eating wheat had significantly more killer T cells, immune strengthening cells to help boost your immunity than people who were gluten-free. All of which suggests that, and this is really interesting, the harder to digest foods that have anti-nutrients on them are harder to digest. And they have over millions of years, and they found gluten in the teeth of ancient humans millions of years ago, that we have been eating for a very, very long time. They have triggered an immune response because we evolved eating poisonous foods, tomatoes, potatoes, nightshades, goitrogens, oxalates. All of these are poisonous foods that we have evolved to be able to consume. When the digestive system breaks down, we lose that ability. But those foods are the immune stimulators, which is why the people who are gluten-free had 4 times the amount of mercury in their blood and less good bugs and less killer T cells than people who were eating wheat, right? Does that make sense? And I'm not trying to make everybody eat wheat, even though I did write a book called Eat Wheat. That's not the point of the book that I wrote. It was all about the fact that we have a broken down digestive system from 60 years of highly processed, highly refined, sugary foods that have caused an epidemic of type 2 diabetes and a broken down digestive system. And we can take the foods out of the diet and you can feel better for a while. But the science is saying that if you just take the foods out of your diet, you don't fix the cause of this real underlying problem with changing your diet, demand whole foods, get rid of the processed refined foods, get rid of the pesticides, and then reset and strengthen your digestive function, we're going to continue to blame the food. And those foods we've been eating for millions of years are secretly the things that trigger gut immunity, which is 70 to 80% of our immune strength. And when you take that out of the diet, the studies are showing long-term, and it's not just me saying, Harvard researchers, all the researchers, these massive studies are saying now, if you are gluten-free, and you don't have to be, then you should be eating whole grains as part of your diet. I'm a big believer having those whole grains, which are starchier in the daytime and no starch at night, and have a higher fattier meal at night. That'll help lower the blood sugars in the morning. But I don't think, particularly in this season, that we should be completely grain-free or starch-free or carb-free. This is a time of the year that we actually would normally consume a lot of everything because it's all being harvested. The nuts and the seeds and the grains and the fruits and the legumes, they're all being harvested as we speak. So if you don't do them, I get it, don't eat them. I mean, if you feel bad eating something, of course, don't eat it. But let's try a real whole grain product. Let's change the diet and go into non-refined, non-processed foods. Let's start eating organically. Let's strengthen your digestion. And that's where I actually produced a course called Question Your Digestion. It's a free training. It's going on as we speak right now at LifeSpa.com. You can get it. It's a 4-part video course. It's where I lay out step by step the entire process of how to question, run a troubleshoot, run a fine-tooth comb through every single aspect of your digestive system, and then teach you how to do the repair of your digestive system. It's a free training. It's a wealth of information. I don't hold anything back. I teach you everything that I know about it to help you guys question and fix your digestive system, okay? And then there's this thing we call the Colorado Cleanse, which is a detox that we do any time of the year, but twice a year we do it as a group where we all come together and I do the cleanse with you, and we have hundreds of people from around the world. There's chat rooms and online forums and daily emails and live question and answer sessions with me and lectures, all kinds of support to give you the insight of how and why to do this detox. And what's unique about the Colorado Cleanse are 2 things. One, just detoxing your body and pulling junk fat-soluble chemicals out of your fat cells may just move the fat cell from one fat cell to another, the toxins from one fat cell to another, because you don't actually reset the ability to digest and detox yourself. And those are the same pathways. Your digestive strength and your detox strength are the same. So when you do a cleanse, it's very important before you do the detox part, you must reset digestive and detox function, which includes stomach function, the coordination of stomach, duodenum enzymes, pancreatic enzymes, bile flow. That all has to be coordinated. Your liver function to produce the bile, your lymphatic drainage off your intestinal skin, and the health and integrity of your intestinal skin all needs to be sort of reset before you do a detox. Once you reset digestive function, the body can take those toxins that you pull out of the fat cells and escort them out of the body. But if you don't, the liver just goes, hey, I mean, who's pulling all this toxins out of the fat cells? I'm completely backed up here, and I have all this stuff put in the attic in the basement for a reason because I can't handle it. Who's doing this? Let's make sure the liver can handle the load before we overwhelm the body by doing a detox that just cleanses the body with no understanding of why we got toxic in the first place. That's what the Colorado Cleanse is. And then the second half of the cleanse is using a time-tested Ayurvedic detox procedure that heals and repairs your intestinal tract, kind and gentle, to do a chelating, a pulling of toxins out of your fat cells, your brain, the areas around your belly, your hips, places like that where we end up storing a lot of fat. And the average person loses about 7 to 17 pounds during the Colorado Cleanse. It's a digestive reset. Folks say, I couldn't eat wheat and gluten before, and now I can. We've been doing this for 15 years. We have thousands upon thousands of people who have done it successfully. We record the results. So I hear from everybody at the end of every cleanse. They let us know how they're doing. So it's something that is definitely worth looking into. Great time of year before the holidays kick in to get that digestive system reset, because the winter is actually when our digestive system is actually starting to get stronger because it's colder and we want that internal heat to keep us warm, but that internal heat breaks down the winter foods, the heavier, the harder to digest foods. So 'tis the season to get our digestive system back on track so we can digest those winter foods and start eating in season the way we've been doing for millions of years. The amylase to digest those foods is increasing in your body and mind as we speak. So it's important that we have the digestive strength to pull that off. It's a critical piece of the puzzle. We now have hard science that shows, Stanford study, that shows that the gut bugs should change dramatically from one season to the next. And if you are a deer and you eat bark in the winter, which they do, and eat leaves in the summer, what they do, they have different bugs for each of those different seasons. And if you were in this one study, they gave deer the bark in the summer when they had the wrong bugs, it caused such a level of indigestion it almost killed the deer. I was like, wait a minute. Deer die when they eat out of season? What about humans? We eat highly processed food, which is like the same food every day of the year, super sterile, super processed, no bugs in it at all. That's the intelligence that makes the digestive system run. So it's so important that we begin to shift into the diet that is, yes, whole grains this time of the year. And I get it. If you don't feel good eating them, we got some work to do first. But let's not settle for just taking the food out of the diet and thinking we've solved the problem. It's a temporary symptomatic fix, and we can do better. Demand whole foods, get unprocessed, non-refined foods, organic foods that haven't been sprayed. And then, of course, then the final step is to reset your digestive system and your detox pathways. And that's why I wrote the course, Question Your Digestion course, which is free, up and running right now on my website at lifespa.com. And then we have in October, the Colorado cleanses are right around the corner. So join us for that. It's a group event, a lot of fun. And I'll be there with you, cleansing alongside of you and answering your questions. Okay, guys, see you next week. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard.